As just about everybody knows, on January 7th, 2026, Renee Good was murdered by an ICE agent in Minneapolis. So before I go any further, I'm not a political commentator, and this channel's it's not going to turn into that. This is not going to become political commentary. And also, there's the fact that I am Canadian, so if I ever do touch upon American politics, it needs to be acknowledged as from the outsider observational perspective. But reality is when your next door neighbor makes a lot of noise, you can't help but notice. But like I said, this is not the intent of this channel is not political commentary. But anyone who's watched my videos know I have a website ongoing history of protest songs.com. And the purpose of the website is really to highlight that the history of protest music is not just something in the past, it's ongoing. And it's good to highlight in a situation like this because sometimes people might think, well, the protest songs, who's speaking out against these injustices? But the answer is, and that's what this video is highlighted, is there's been plenty of protest songs since Good was murdered. And along with the protest songs, there's been a number of artists that have been speaking out in other ways as well. Like, for example, on January 17th, during his performance in New Jersey, Bruce Springsteen spoke out. So he basically spoke out against the murder of Renee Good.
You stand against heavily armed masked federal troops invading an American city and using Gestapo tactics against our fellow citizens. If you believe you don't deserve to be murdered for exercising your American right to protest, and send a message to this president, and as the mayor of that city has said, ICE should get out of Minneapolis. Well, this song is for you, and in the memory of mother of three, an American citizen, Renee Good.
And of course, Bruce Springsteen is someone that's often has written protest songs. So if he was to write one in the future, that would not be a surprise. But along with all the speaking out during concert performances, which has been happening, like I said, there's been a number of protest songs that were written as well. So it might be true that it might be a bit different than the 60s and 70s, where people have had massive number one hits of protest songs. Maybe that has changed a bit. Maybe protest songs don't have the same cultural impact. And the reality is that's an entirely different discussion of why that might be the case. Like, for example, you might have to get into a debate on things like monoculture, but basically that's going to be a subject of an entire different video. So if you want me to make a video where I dissect that, you can let me know in the comments. But basically, the purpose of this video and the purpose of our website is just to simply highlight that these songs are being written. So during this video, I'm just going to highlight a few of them. And there's been many more that I'm not even going to discuss in this video. And I'm also going to discuss a couple of songs that weren't written directly about the incidents, but they resonate in connection with it. So to begin, we're going to start with a usual suspect. So the first song we're going to discuss, it's entitled Good versus Ice by Jesse Wells. So when we think of mainstream protest singers, this is basically the guy that everyone's going to think of if they do think of someone. And basically, what Jesse Wells is known for is as soon as a major news event occurs, he's pretty quick to write a song afterwards. So for those that follow Jesse Wells, we quite often, shortly afterwards, we're going to check YouTube and see, okay, has he written a song about it yet? So he wrote this song basically a day after the murder. And it's not the first time that Jesse Wells has written an anti-ICE protest song. Like previously, he wrote the song Join ICE.
I got picked on in school, I never felt that cool. There's a hole in my soul that just rages. All the women turned me down, they told me I was a clown. Well, won't you look at me now, I'm putting folks in cages at ICE.
Which was very satirical and it was a scathing indictment. So in contrast with that song, this song's a bit more, I could say it's a bit more somber in nature. So there's still satirical elements to it, but because of the nature of someone actually dying, it strikes a different tone. But it is a powerful song which well articulates basically what people were going through. It like if we well process the feelings of this tragic situation. So an example of the lyrics of this song, Wells wrote, now they'll circle the wagons, drape the men in a flag, and say, don't trust what your eyes can see. They'll say it's her fault instead for getting shot in the head while we all watched the same damn thing.
They don't need to shoot someone in the face to do the thing that you're calling a job. How's work? Well, they got us shooting women now.
And those lyrics, like powerful lyrics, they really do stand out because it's something that a few of the different songs we're going to discuss touch upon this. We have all seen the same videos, so it might be multiple videos from different angles, but sometimes you wonder how could everyone watch the same videos and come to different conclusions? And it could be tough. Like for Jesse Wells, and I'm kind of in the same boat with him, it's hard to fathom how someone can watch these videos and try to justify her murder. It just doesn't make sense. Like it's one thing if people want to argue, okay, maybe she shouldn't have been there, but any scenario where you're saying that she deserves to be shot 3 times, I think if you're going to try and justify that, I think you got to question your humanity. So, yeah, I'm not going to say too much about that, but we're going to go to another song we're going to discuss. So, the song's called Murder in Minneapolis by Curtis Lovejoy. So, Curtis Lovejoy, he doesn't have the same profile, unfortunately, that Jesse Wells does. But the one similarity he has is that he quite often writes topical tunes in response to news events. But his approach is slightly different. Like he's not quite as satirical as Wells. Lovejoy's approach is more, I would say, of a journalistic, observational approach. So in many ways, Lovejoy follows the folk broadside tradition of writing about current news events. So kind of like, for example, you could think of individuals like Woody Guthrie, which Wells kind of follows Guthrie as well, and Guthrie does have some satirical elements. But like I said, it's a slightly different lens of approaching these news items. So I am a fan of Lovejoy, and it's unfortunate he doesn't have a bigger profile. But this particular song, like I said, it's more of a direct response to the ICE agent who gunned her down. And once again, it's a very mournful approach. And the lyrics also, once again, discuss how, even though we all seen the same videos, there's a segment of individuals that try to read that false narrative. So they try to make it look like it's good that basically the perpetrator, like like they try to paint her as a terrorist who deserved to get shot.
Murder in Minneapolis, a woman gunned down, unarmed and not detained, bystanders all around. Murder in Minneapolis, but what did we expect? With ICE out patrolling these streets unchecked. Murder in Minneapolis, what did we see? Two agents ordered Renee Good out of her SUV. She backed up and swerved around the car in her way. A third agent opened fire like he thought he was brave. But this was murder in Minneapolis, it's all on tape. And every single angle shows the exact same thing. Murder in Minneapolis.
So next we're going to discuss a single songwriter named Bruce W. Nelson. So he's basically a country singer who quite often posts satirical songs online. And he actually posts three different songs about the murder of Rebecca Good, or at least three, because he posts pretty regularly. So maybe he's even posted some songs since I've recorded this. But I want to discuss three tunes that he wrote. So the first one, the satirical elements, but it's a bit more mournful. The title of the song is That Ice Agent Was Pretty Proud. So in this song, Nelson, what he deals with is the possible mindset of Jonathan Ross, who Jonathan Ross was basically the murderer of Rebecca Good. So he deals with the possible mindset of Jonathan Ross and other like-minded ICE agents. Like what would drive these individuals to re-express cruelty and violence towards others. Because it's not just, it goes beyond just simple law enforcement. Like for simply that you're apprehending a violent criminal, everyone would be on board with that. But what they're actually doing, it goes beyond simply keeping communities safe. And there's just a lack of humanity and human decency there. And
ICE agent was pretty proud he got to do what he has longed to do. To shut a woman up for good, there were lots of them before he'd wanted to. To shoot her close range in the face was to that agent somewhat of a thrill.
then the other song he wrote was a bit more satirical and scathing. So the title of the song was ICE Can Shoot You Dead. Trump says so. So this basically addresses Donald Trump's statement about ICE agents on how they have immunity. And Donald Trump's not the only one who said that. Like ones like Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, and others have argued that basically ICE agents can do whatever they want with no fear of being brought to justice. And that could potentially be scary because this could lead to even more fatal occurrences.
to unload. Old Christy Gnome will have some lies to share, saying how domestic terrorists threatened her agents' lives, and so they escalated to warfare. Pretty exciting to stage war against your own people. You don't have to make a big trip in order to do it. If ICE believes you're talking back, they now can shoot you dead. If ICE suspects you're brown or black, they now can shoot you dead.
And then there was one last protest song that he wrote that we're going to discuss. And this is by far the most satirical of the three. And it has a pretty humorous title. So the title of the song is Moms, Goats, or Puppies, they're all the same to Christy Gnome. So this song is a scathing indictment of the Secretary of Homeland Security, Christy Gnome. So it addresses how she tried to spin, and we touched upon this a bit, but Gnome tried to spin a false narrative concerning the murder of Renee Good. And like I said, we touched upon this a bit. She even tried to label her as a domestic terrorist. And the lyrics also address the poor hiring standards of ICE and how they seem to attract the lowest common denominator. Because sometimes among those that kind of lean towards the right, like when they speak out against things like DEI, they talk about how you have to hire based on merit. The reality is there are a number of ICE agents that probably wouldn't be hired if you're hiring strictly based on merit. And there are legitimate discussions that need to be had about the screening process. So that's something that's addressed in these lyrics as well.
Need not apply. Gnome's looking for each unhinged guy who's got chips on his shoulder, whose heart's like ice but colder. Each angry incel looking for dough, who wants to just get even should know you get a gun and mask. What more could small man ask? 'Cause Christy does what Christy does. 'Cause cosplay turns on Corey. They hook up in Christy's jet. At least that is the story.
So the next song, it's actually a reworking of a previous tune. So it's Knock on the Door, which is a song by Phil Ochs. So the song by Phil Ochs, which appears on his 1964 album, All the News That's Fit to Sing, kind of highlights, like, for example, in Nazi Germany, how they actually would knock on the door to try to round up Jews and other individuals that were considered enemies of the state. So a activist singer-songwriter and someone who refers to himself as a labor troubadour, Ben Groskop, who quite often appears at rallies, he adapted and changed some of the lyrics of the song to speak out against the tactics of ICE. And that includes a performance that he did at a rally protesting the murder of Renee Good. So it just shows how some of these songs that were written in the past, such as this tune by Phil Ochs, they sadly continue to be relevant. But it also highlights an important folk tradition where over time lyrics could be rewritten in order to make these songs more evergreen and relevant.
Uniforms have changed, but the knock is the same. The agents of ICE broadcast their raids. They're trying to make the people afraid of a knock on the door. Knock on the door, here they come to take one more with the knock on.
And there's just a couple of other songs I want to mention briefly that were written directly about Renee Good. And like I said, there's a number of them, but there's just a couple more I just like to specifically mention. So one is a song called Kindness is in Common Sense. It's also labeled, Selfie's official title to it, but on YouTube and I believe on other social media pages where she posted it, it's labeled as Kindness is in Common Sense, a tribute for Renee Good. This is a song by Katie Pruitt. So at this point, it's just a little over a minute long. So I don't know if there's ever going to be an official version of the song, but it's a gorgeous tune that I thought was worth highlighting. And I just want to highlight one of the lyrics in the song. She states a shocking lack of empathy, yet think for once we would agree it is heartless to call this self-defense.
When a fascist in a ski mask shot her dead, a shocking lack of empathy, you'd think for once that we'd agree it's heartless to call this self-defense. I guess kindness isn't common.
So this kind of lyric that really hits. And once again, we already talked about the fact that everyone sees the same video, but there's still those that are trying to call it self-defense instead of murder. It can be hard to fathom how people can reason that way. And there's, like I said, there's others that wrote songs too, like another notable artist is Wang Gao.
If you still have faith in your own two eyes, contrary to the regime's beliefs, there's a video of the whole thing online if you don't believe in me. Renee Good was a citizen, a mother and a wife. She was brand new ice territory, middle class and skin of white. Jonathan Ross is a murderer and ICE is a terror group, but definitely.
Who I want to mention because Wang Gao will quite often post short, like minute-long, socially conscious protest songs online as well. And he wrote one about Renee Good, which I don't think has an official title. Maybe he will officially release it at one point. But just wanted to highlight that there's a number of these songs online. So if you do decide to search for them, they definitely are there. But there's also a few other songs that I want to mention that weren't directly written about Renee Good and her murder, but they resonate. So the first one, and this is by far the most notable and probably the biggest artist I'm going to mention on this list. So the song is Bad News about Zach Bryant.
There's no time of dropping the block, heard the cops came. Cocky motherfuckers ain't paid. ICE is gonna come bust down your door. Tried to build a house, no one builds no more. But I got a telephone. The kids are all scared and all alone.
And basically a few months ago, Zach Bryan posted a snippet of the song, which caused controversy among his more conservative fan base. But the official version has just been released on his new album with Heaven on Top. But I want to highlight the lyrics that caused the controversy. So notice, like this has some hard hitting lyrics here. I heard the cops came, cocky motherfuckers, ain't they? And ICE is gonna come, bust down your door, try to build a house. No one builds no more. But got a telephone, kids all scared and all alone. So yes, I mean there was already concerns at that point about what was going on with ICE, and obviously it was something that Zach Bryan observed, but it even resonates more since what happened with Renee Good. and even what continues to happen because there's been other shootings and different violent confrontations since this happened. And even though nothing as fatal as what happened here, there's still been like a lot of tragic things going on since then. And the reality is, with the current climate, this is going to continue to be a reality. But yeah, we mentioned like this was by far the most controversial aspect of the song. But what the rest of the lyrics do, it really highlights the political divide in America. And we already mentioned how that even stands out with how everyone's seen the same videos from different angles, but one side says it was murder and the other said it was in self-defense. So this song kind of resonates in connection with that. And there's just a couple of other songs I want to mention. So another song is Toy Soldier by Earth to Eve, who's a singer-songwriter who quite often writes powerful protest songs. And this one deals with toxic masculinity. It even deals with how toxic masculinity links to male growing up to act out in violence. So there was even like after the murder of Renee Good, she even posted like a YouTube short that included footage of Renee Good being murdered. So it kind of shows how these lyrics also resonate in light of the violence of ICE agents. So it kind of helps explore the mindset of those like Jonathan Ross, who murdered Renee Good, and other ICE agents who almost seem to get off on lashing out in violence against certain individuals. So the song kind of deals with that mindset, which resonates. And I'm just going to mention one last song. So I'm just going to highlight briefly clips from a performance that took place during the Vans Warped Tour back in July of 2025. So,
Just see those fingers running up in motherfuckers. Fuck them all. I don't give a fuck. I changed the word. Ice Killer!
Body Count, the heavy metal project of Ice-T, they performed a version of their controversial protest song, Pop Hero, but they changed some of the lyrics and basically renamed it as Ice Kill. So when Ice-T first wrote the song in 1992, it was in response to the brutal beating of Rodney King. But basically now there's similar angle directed towards Ice. So it is good to know that this is something that Ice-T has talked about. It was never his intent to literally condone the murder of the police officers. Just like it's not his intent now. He's not saying go out and murder an ICE agent. but it does express the justified anger that many are feeling. And it can also be a warning because if people are angry enough, they may end up lashing out in violence. And there's the potential here. Like the US could be on the verge of a civil war. Like there could be, like if people get angry enough, they might think that the next step is to take up arms. So yeah, he did modify some of the lyrics to speak out against ICE. And he also acknowledged the fact during the performance, because there's some that people point out the irony of the fact that the same guy who wrote Ice Kill now plays a cop on TV.
Don't be afraid. There's more of us. I played one on TV. They can suck my dick. Let's go, let's go. Here we go, sing along. Cop killer! Cop killer! Don't be afraid. Let's go. Cop killer! Love it. Cop killer! I think I'm gonna have a orgasm.
But it is, like I said, it's good to note. Ice-T was never saying that every single cop was bad. It's just that those that are bad cops, we should speak out against them. And if ICE is probably a little bit harder to justify, like saying that there's good ICE agents. I mean, maybe at one point there was, because I think most people will agree that if individuals, like if you have like undocumented immigrants that are like rapists and that are engaged in violent crime, yes, they should be dealt with. And ICE agents probably can play an important role in that. But when you look at the current tactics that they use, the fact that they basically have almost become like a secret police and became like armed thugs, how can you justify that? So even if someone initially became an ICE agent with good motives, how can someone with a conscience continue to be an ICE agent? Like I said, I don't really want to get to full-blown political commentary there, but I think it's a question that it's an individual could be justified in asking. But yeah, that'll basically conclude the video. So we featured a few songs that were written directly about ICE and a few that maybe were written just prior to, but they kind of resonate. Well, not just written about ICE, because some of the songs were already written about ICE, but maybe weren't written directly about the murder of Renee Good. So I'll ask you that are watching as well, are you aware of any protest songs written about the murder of Renee Good, or even some strong, hard-hitting anti-ICE protest songs? You can feel free to let me know in the comments if you think there's any songs that I missed in this video. And like I said at the beginning, I even mentioned the discussion of, even though protest songs are still written, sometimes there's a discussion of why protest music doesn't get the same mainstream attention that it used to. So if you have your thoughts on that, you can feel free to have that discussion in the comments. But if you want me to make a video on that topic, let me know as well. If you want me to keep making videos in general, please like and subscribe. And once again, check out the website, Ongoing History of Protest Songs.com. So thanks for watching, and please stay safe.